Hey everybody, it's White Mojo Wolf. I'm here with a new video called My History with Nintendo. I'm doing what I did last time with the Xbox to where I'm pulling up an article from my old blog site and turning it basically into a YouTube video. And I remember spending a lot of time writing this last year. I think it was during the spring. And um, I figured it would be fun looking back on the blog and reading this with you guys and just kind of seeing what changed and if I kind of had anything to add after the fact. So I'm going to ad lib it like I did. I'm going to read it, mostly stick to script if I can with some ad libs. And then just fair warning, this is a bit longer video than the Xbox One because that was my brief history with Xbox. This is my full history with Nintendo. There's a lot more years to cover and a lot more memories. So without further ado, all I know is just read this and get started, right? So, reading the article like this. This will be the first of 4 entries over the next couple months. Wrong. The idea behind my History With series is to give you an insight with all the various mediums of consoles and platforms I've used for gaming. Also, you'll see that I refuse to dive into the whole console wars or even the whole PC master race hot takes from various other people. I've gotten enjoyment over the years out of Nintendo consoles, Sony consoles, Xbox consoles, PC gaming, handhelds, arcade machines, Sega consoles. I mean, the list can just go on and on for there. I don't even have enough fingers for it, right? I also feel like if this blog is going to double down in the gaming aspect, I should say, I feel like if this channel is going to double down in the gaming aspect, I need to establish some credibility as a long-term gamer and where a lot of my opinions come from. I'm not just some media person diving into a niche, just knowing it on a surface level. No way, Jose. For me, I've been gaming since I was a small child, and I have so many great memories with each console. Whoa, I scrolled way too quick on that. There we go. Sorry about that. In order to deliver the whole story properly, I've subdivided my past history of gaming into 4 sections. You're reading the first right now, Nintendo. The other 3 pieces will be Sony, Microsoft, and finally PC plus more. The latter article will go into my years of PC gaming, plus some of the other consoles I played, like the Sega Genesis. With this article, I plan on going chronological with the first Nintendo console I have played and go from there. I'm not telling you the history of Nintendo, I'm just telling you my history. I didn't have all the consoles. Back to the story. I'll feature a picture for each, which you're probably not going to get to see. And also, I'll attach a video from YouTube for each console, which you're not going to get to see. Either showing the marketing or some gameplay that still resonates with me over the years, right? You know what I might do with the YouTube stuff? I might actually get those links and put them in the description. So, by the time I publish this video, I'll go fetch those links and put them in the description for you guys. I think I can do that. Back to the story. I should note before we begin, I did not possess each and every Nintendo console, especially the more modern ones. The decision was due to personal preference. As for the older consoles, I could either not find one or I was just not feeling the nostalgia. Without further delay, let's just jump in. We're going to start with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES for short. This era was very difficult to pinpoint because I was very young. I want to say this was when I was kindergarten age, so we're talking 1999 to 2000 here. This is the year Prince Wants to Party, and it's also the first year I was in school. At this point, it was a decade past the peak of popularity for the NES. Here in Arkansas, it's very easy to acquire gaming consoles that are 10 years and older for the exceptional price at various yard sales. I mean, you could probably find an NES at a yard sale for like $50 at the most. They'll probably have games with it. The reason why I mention this is due to the fact that this is exactly how my dad got this console for me. In fact, the Sega Genesis was actually my first ever console. This NES was my second one. Also, it was almost like jumping a generation behind in terms of graphics and gameplay. The reason I included Duck Hunt as my main gameplay clip is because it was my favorite game to play on there. At the time, I had no idea how the technology made it possible, but I could just point and aim the gun controller at the TV and shoot some ducks. Never could pop that smart-ass dog, though, and I did write that. I see Nintendo didn't want to freak out PETA or anything, but that dog was an asshole for laughing at a 5 to 6 year old kid for not hitting every single target. Oh, I can't believe I wrote that. That's funny. The other game we had for this console was the original Super Mario Brothers. Now that I can remember this moment, I'm pretty sure we have both games as like a combo bundle. I did some research online and I found the box art and I remember it well. For Super Mario Brothers, I would use the controller and I could get past about the first 3 levels or so, but it just did not grab my attention because the Sega Genesis spoiled me with those 16-bit platforming like Batman Forever and Sonic the Hedgehog provided. In conclusion, my main love with this console was Duck Hunt. After I got my fun out of Duck Hunt, I was pretty much done with the console. I never got to play many of the other games due to the fact we could not find them, and also this was the era just before the game stores popped up. Just a few months later, I got a whole new gaming experience introduced to me. I can't remember if it was my birthday or Christmas time, but I had a gift to open, and it was none other than the... I've got to pause it real quick. I had to pause the video for a second. Sorry about that. The next gaming console I got was the Game Boy Color. I remember getting a Game Boy Color around the year 2000. In fact, it might have been the Christmas of 99 or 2000. I just have a hard time remembering. I was using an excuse back then. Honestly, though, I think Christmas of 2000 was the date. At that stage of my life, I was more mobile than stationary as a child. A lot of it was due to the fact that when I was out of school and both of my parents were working at their jobs or doing their adulting, just the stuff, adults got to do that we all hate doing now. I had to stay with a variety of relatives. My top 3 were my Nini, my dad's sister, my Meemaw, my dad's mom, and then to a lesser degree, my other grandma, my mom's mom, if that makes sense. I loved to play games, but I needed something more entertaining for when I had some downtime at their homes. Keep in mind, my Nini was in her early 60s, Meemaw was in her mid-70s. Their routines usually involved having a very busy first part of the day, a nap in the middle, and then laid back in the evening time. Also during that time, I did a lot of riding around with them, like in the vehicle, just running errands with them. I just had quite a bit of downtime, and even though I would play outside a whole lot and had race cars and action figures, my mind just wanted something more stimulating. I had a great imagination as a kid, I like to think. So I ended up getting the same Game Boy Color you see above. It's the see-through purple one. It also came with a little light that looked like a worm that you would plug into the left side of the Game Boy in order to illuminate your screen. Back then, there wasn't really such a thing as backlight that we're used to on the cell phones and the portable consoles these days. Some of the games I had for the Game Boy included NASCAR 2000, Nicktoons Racing, Rampage World Tour, Rugrats in Paris, and then eventually Pokemon Silver. I think I played each of these games extensively. I completed each one of them at least once. In some cases, such as Pokemon Silver, I played through at least 2 times since you could start with 1 of 3 different Pokemon. That alone should give you 3 playthroughs, you'd think. I have to say it was smart of the developers at the time. The memory that stands out to me the most with this console is the Christmas when I got it. Let me tell you the story in its full, explicit glory. So on Dad's side of the family, we'd have Christmas at Meemaw's house. I can't remember if it was my mom, if mom was there or not, but even though my parents are divorced, it wasn't rare to see both parents at different family gatherings, even if it wasn't theirs. Now that I think of it, she might have been there. She will know after I tell the story because it's just so memorable. Back in 2000, games still cost the same as they roughly do today. Games were about $50 for a very long time until the PS3 and 360 came out when $60 became more common. If you adjust that for inflation, games should cost at least $80 these days, but we have people having fits over $70 games. I digress. My parents were in charge of getting me the Game Boy itself, it turns out. When I opened it, I had Rampage World Tour and Nicktoons Racing. Meemaw was the one that gifted me Rugrats in Paris because I loved that cartoon as a kid, of course before SpongeBob took over. I opened the gift and said my thanks and hugged everybody, as a kid. When it's Christmas and it's just so perfect and you're so damn happy and thankful and have that cloud 9 feeling. I really missed it as an adult, but now I think it's our responsibility as adults to kind of make sure the kids of the future get to experience what we did, that same euphoria from Christmas. Without losing the meaning of it, of course. So the packaging for the games at that time had a notorious reputation for being bigger than what the cartridge actually covers. For example, the Game Boy Color boxes looked flashy and was the size about like 2 smartphones butted together. However, the game cartridges were about a fourth of the size the box came in. Now with the Nintendo Switch, it's even less. Keep all this in mind. My Meemaw honestly had no idea what the hell she just bought me, and this is exactly how I topped it, by the way. She just knew it was on my list and just did her part. I remember her making a comment in the background saying, "Son, I hope you enjoy whatever that is. It cost me $50 damn. I love you and all, but I just hope it was worth it." At that point, my dad said, "Hey Shane, why don't you show your Meemaw what her $50 bought you? Go ahead and take it out of the cartridge and put it in the Game Boy." I gave Meemaw the cartridge. She just looked at it in silence and finally responded. She said, "Well, what the fuck is this thing? You mean we paid $50 fucking a piece for one of these damn things? Do you know what all you could have bought with $50? But back then she had a point. Now, you can't even get a full tank of gas. Apparently all the adults died of laughter. I mean, metaphorically. So I decided to fire the game and show her some gameplay. You could tell the cartridge turned her worldview upside down on items and cost. Eventually, though, I think she is impressed in a way you could pack all that into like one little chip and give a kid entertainment for hours on the go. That's what the Game Boy Color provided me. After that Christmas, though, I believe Mom and Dad both told me on 2 occasions to leave the action figures, Legos, and play sets on Meemaw's list so that, let Santa kind of handle the video games. So yeah, the Game Boy Color is one of my favorite consoles. As a matter of fact, I still have it and it still works. And as another matter of fact, well, there it is. I knew I had it. Wait, this is the wrong one. That's Game Boy Advance. I have it. I know I do. There it is. A little dusty. That's it right there. Yep. And look what's in here. Nicktoons Racing. See? Does it fire up? I don't have any batteries in it. That's why it doesn't fire up. It would though. Alright. Next console. Guess what? The next Nintendo item I got was the Game Boy Advance. I think I got this handheld device about a year or two after the Game Boy. I don't have any lengthy stories to tell about the console, but I do have some memories regarding this bad boy. I firmly remember that it was basically the Game Boy Color, but newer and improved. For one, you could probably tell by the form factor it was much easier to hold in the hands and play longer periods of times. I remember everything feeling easier to, to grip. I had a couple of accessories with this one too. One was a battery pack that I could plug into the wall for when I was gaming at the house and sitting on the couch. I'd save my batteries for on-the-go gameplay. The other accessory I had was another screen light that hovered above the screen on top. We still did not have the backlight. As for the games themselves, they felt like a step up graphically. The best way I can describe the leap is similar to the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit that you saw with like the NES to Super Nintendo. I remember playing Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire extensively on this console. I also played Fire Red when it was released. Other games on the console I played was like Power Rangers, Wild Force, and then Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. In fact, you can see what I mean in terms of the graphical jump the Game Boy Advance provided with some gameplay of Harvest Moon below. That video might actually got taken down from a year ago to now. Another aspect Nintendo introduced to the Game Boy Advance is that you could connect it to the Nintendo Gamecube and transport certain things between games. For example, if you could get on Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life on the Gamecube, it would give you the option to hook up the Game Boy Advance and visit Mineral Town. At the time, it was wild to see two separate consoles working together like that. Like, we're talking 2003, 2004. I should mention this part of my life is where I'd have two different Nintendo consoles at the same time frame. It happened around 2004 with the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo Gamecube, and it happened a few years later at the Nintendo DS and the Wii. One console was for portable purposes, and the other I would play at my own home and not really take it anywhere because I was paranoid as hell about them breaking. Now we're on to the Nintendo Gamecube. The Nintendo Gamecube is how I have it written. What a console. This has to be easily one of my top 3 favorite consoles as a child. I agree, still. I remember sometime in 2004, my mom and I were visiting my Uncle Tim, which is her brother. Tim was notorious for having all sorts of nice toys. If it came to the latest technology or flashy car, Tim had it. That's just who he was. He had this game console called the Nintendo Gamecube. When we visited, he was playing this game called Mario Kart Double Dash. He grabbed a couple of wireless controllers from his entertainment center and told Mom and I, "You both aren't leaving until we play some Mario Kart." First of all, I was obsessed over the wireless controller. Usually I'd set up my PlayStation 2 carefully because I always was tethered to the controller. So we played the game. Both Mom and I were just blown away with how fun and just simple the game was. Not to mention the graphics looked very good for 2004. He invited us to come play again another evening. He introduced us to... I watched that. He introduced us to even more of the games Nintendo had to offer. Again, just as last time, we were just blown away at what the GameCube had. It was after that night Mom actually agreed with me that we had to go get a GameCube of our own. Mom was a gamer herself, but she mostly played on the PC with me, and I'm going to talk about that in my PC part of this. The games Mom and I would play on I can just sit there and remember like it was yesterday, like the setting, the game, just how everything was set up. Anyway, shortly after, we had to search a few stores, and we finally got a GameCube. We got 2 of the wireless controllers as well. The 2 games we got were Mario Kart Double Dash and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. We remember both of these games impressing us the most. After a while, Mom and I would race our heart's content on Mario Kart. We unlocked everything we could. Shortly after, I went to Zelda and completed that game after a good while. We didn't really know what to try next. Mom had a promotion at the movie. I guess the way I should have phrased that was Mom had like a coupon at the movie rental place to where she could get a game over the weekend if she bought X amount of movies. Well, rented X amount of movies. We loved watching movies together, so that was just the promotion we exploited quite a bit. Yeah, because you could go there, I think it was Movie Gallery, you could go there and, like one weekend you could rent like 3 movies, and which I think it was like $2 a piece if I remember right. And then, like, if you rented that many movies for a weekend, you could also rent a game for the same weekend. And that's what we did. So this little coupon led us to Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. What an incredible game that was. You lived the life of a farmer in a small village and ran your own farm and did some interesting other tasks such as fishing, archaeology. You could also give villagers products from your farm, however they all had their unique preferences. You would find one of the eligible ladies and marry them to, progress the story. You would have a child, and as the game progressed, your farm got more advanced, the people would age, and you would live out the life of this little farmer. I don't think I talked to Mom about this much, but after the game ended, your farmer passes away. I think I grieved more over our farmer than some of my real-life distant relatives. I actually did write that. I was a kid. Death was a weird concept. Leave younger me alone. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, the next game we both would play extensively was Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Uncle Tim steered us toward the game because he knew I liked to play the PGA Tour games he had. Mom and I to this day could talk hours about Mario Golf, and we can recall memories about certain courses, certain characters. We also can remember certain holes in which we get the hole-in-ones. But yeah, if you ask either one of us where we put our socks from 2 days ago, we could not tell you. Mom didn't really play any Air GameCube games like I did. Some of it was due to time, she was busy, but the other part's just due to the fact that she just liked the few games that we had. We got the sequel to Harvest Moon where you ran the same farm. It's the same game, but you played as a female. It's just the fun the second time around, and the thing they did differently with that game is like after you pass away, you can keep playing the game. It just kind of reverts you back when she was a bit younger, and you just play infinite loop. As for me, I got to experience some of the other GameCube design games such as F-Zero, Star Fox, Animal Crossing, Metroid, Super Mario Sunshine. All of them were great, especially Animal Crossing. Now for the third-party games such as NASCAR, Madden, and the more serious sports games I like to play, I always found that PlayStation 2 would run them better. As a general rule, I would only play the GameCube only games on the GameCube. Holy crap, I wrote that weird. No, basically what I was trying to say is like the Nintendo games made by Nintendo, I played those on the GameCube. Anything else made by like EA, Ubisoft, Square Enix, I'd play on the PlayStation. It was like the best of both worlds. In hindsight, the GameCube gets a lot more apathy than it deserves. I'm not sure why many people think so low of the console. If it weren't for the GameCube, the Game Boy would have probably been the last Nintendo console I would have wanted. It was the GameCube and its terrific first-party games that made me fall in love with the different Nintendo franchises themselves. That's what companies need to drive customers to the newest and greatest consoles. Take Zelda, for example. Many people have their own memories of Zelda, excuse me, like myself with the Wind Waker. I remember when the Switch was announced and they also announced Breath of the Wild. I'm sure that game alone sold many Nintendo Switches. Before we move on to Nintendo DS, I'd like to include some gameplay from Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Just look at the graphics and keep in mind this game was released in late 2003. This game could easily pass as a Nintendo Wii game. And then I put in parentheses, sorry mom, I had to include Blooper Bay. We need to face our Mario Golf demons head on. I'll put that in the description. It looks like the link's still good. It says, Dear Blooper Bay, I love to hate you as the caption. I hated that chorus. Nintendo DS, or the Nintendo Dual Screen, as I like to call it. Released November 2004. Yeah, I had to look that up. I think I got mine like in 2005 sometime, if I remember right. This console revolutionized handheld portable gaming in the day. You can just tell it was the next logical step as well as the most ambitious step Nintendo took after the Game Boy Advance. Some of the new features this console had included the top screen being your basic viewing screen, however the console had a bottom screen that was the touch screen. Most games would have you focus on the top screen for gameplay, and then the bottom screen would be used for inventory management. It would serve as a map or a menu to kind of complement what you're looking at up there. Animal Crossing Wild World and Mario Kart DS were my first two games. I was quite surprised to find this image for the DS. Animal Crossing used the bottom touchscreen as its main screen. The top screen just featured the sky and the clouds so you could watch for balloons to pop. To me, it was the first game you could really play with the touchscreen, and I think this link still works. I'll include it. Some of the other features was that the DS could be folded in half so it could fit in your pocket. It's a big console. It had a spot for a stylus that you would use to operate the touchscreen. It had a built-in microphone as well. It was also the first naturally backlit screen I could play with. Another cool feature is that it would utilize Wi-Fi for online play, which was kind of a new thing back then. You could also do web browsing. Finally, it had a spot underneath the console where you could fit a Game Boy Advance game and use your DS to play it, like backwards compatibility. I remember on the bright sunny days, I'd opt to have my Game Boy games operate on the bottom screen and would just kind of fold the top half to block the sunlight better. It's just a hell of a portable console and revolutionized gaming on the go in my world. Not to mention, it had some great games. I remember playing, the main Nintendo first-party games like Pokemon and Mario. And I tried some third-party games. Just like the Gamecube, if you were going to game on the DS, your best bet was to stick to the Nintendo exclusives. As the DS continued on, Nintendo wanted to grow the console and utilize more of the Wi-Fi capabilities. They wanted it to run various apps like news, weather, sports, etc. Think iPhone before the iPhone. Unfortunately, though, when they decided to double down on that concept, Steve Jobs would announce the first iPhone months later and just tank the whole idea. I had the Nintendo DS for many years. It was the portable gaming console in my eyes as I turned into a young teenager. Preteen, I guess. Eventually, Nintendo moved on to the 3DS, which itself was a great console. I just didn't need another portable one, nor did I have the interest at that time in it. So, because at that time, there was another console hogging my attention. Hydro Flask. Can't recommend it enough. Nintendo Wii. The year 2006 was a year of high hope for gaming. We got introduced to the next iterations from all the major companies. It was clear that Xbox 360 and the PS3 were entering a battle for supremacy in terms of hardware, graphics, games, and etc. Everyone wondered how Nintendo would respond, including me. I remember reading previews of the next console. I think the year before they introduced us to the console design and codenamed it Nintendo Revolution. Seemed cool to me. Other than that, we were left in the dark in terms of how everything worked. Eventually, Nintendo decided to show their cards, and this video below is the initial presentation. You can skim it as you wish, but, basically I was just excited to watch it. It got me hyped up for it. After the announcement, it was clear Nintendo decided to not even participate in the same contest in the console wars. Nintendo pretty much told Sony and Microsoft to have fun chasing graphics and tech. Nintendo's going to go their own way and cast a wider net. It's pretty obvious that motion and active gaming was the next logical step for them. Around this time, gamers and obesity went together like peanut butter and jelly. I didn't know I wrote that. That's funny. This was a subtle way to get people more active with their hobby and do them less harm, Get them up. It's like they like gaming, but they're a bit overweight. So, let's get them active a little bit, give them the same games, and maybe we can kind of, lose some of this stuff, right? I remember in the spring of 2007 sometime, Mom and I were able to find a Wii somewhere nearby. We got some kind of deal where you got the console that came with Wii Sports, but we were also able to get another game, and I think we got some kind of Sonic game. There was not much out there at the time. Console was so new. That was the first time we kind of saw, console scarcity. I mean, that was just fine, because Wii Sports got so many miles ran up on that game from both Mom and I. We played everything, but our two favorite games were golf and bowling. I think bowling was our favorite overall. We both got great at the game and would have some high-scoring contests. I remember back then it felt good to move. The console itself was easy to set up. It came with the sensor bar with a ridiculously long cable so you could get the setup established. As time went on, we saw Nintendo's first-party games make their way over to the Wii. Mario Kart Wii, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess were two good ones. As you can see, I had a pattern for the first two games I bought for Nintendo. I'm just now kind of noticing that because, with the Gamecube, I got Mario Kart and Zelda. With the Wii, I got Mario Kart and Zelda. When I bought my Switch, guess what my first two games are? Mario Kart and Zelda. So Mario Kart Wii had the little racing wheel peripheral you could use. You pop your controller in there, and it just added a whole new level of immersion. We spent countless hours on the game as well. As for Zelda, I remember playing the game swiftly. I just remember the change of direction from Wind Waker, and I appreciated the more serious tone. Plus, using the Wii remote to assist your gameplay is a whole new experience. My favorite game for the Nintendo Wii was hands down Super Mario Galaxy. In the video above, you can see some gameplay of all three of the major games I've mentioned, minus Sonic. Super Mario Galaxy not only had an incredible story, the whole atmosphere of space and planets was a treat. It allowed for all sorts of worlds to be integrated. The gameplay was not hard to where you could just not get past a certain stage, but it was not easy enough to where you could just do everything on the first try with no problem. I firmly believe this direction by Nintendo was the best move they could have made at the time. Even today, we're seeing the benefits. Sometimes, though, you can run a risk being on your own and trying to innovate in different ways. Some concepts would not hit home as well as other concepts. Take the next two consoles from Nintendo, for example. The Wii U just did not have the same allure as the Wii, and a lot of people didn't really know if it was a separate console or just a tablet. I was even confused. And as for the 3DS, it had the same issues. It was a shame, though, because both of these consoles had amazing games, and Nintendo's been introducing those games on the back end by porting them to the Nintendo Switch. Take Mario Kart 8, for example. It's a remastered port from the Wii U. I do find it quite ironic that after the Wii received critical acclaim and mass popularity, we saw Xbox and PlayStation introduce their own games and equipment like the Kinect, the PS Move, things like that, in order to dip into the same market Nintendo had a firm grasp on. This, my readers, emphasizes the point of being proud of being different. And then I have a section called the Nintendo Dark Years. And in this section, pretty much, I just kind of pretty much gave you a reason from why 2009 to 2017 I didn't give a damn about Nintendo. I mean, we could prattle on and on about that, but basically, in short, I was playing PC, PS3, 360. Mom was busy with her higher level schooling, and we didn't really fool with Nintendo much. It just wasn't interesting, and Nintendo kind of had a slump for a few years there. But then, I remember in 2016, especially late into the year, there were swirling rumors about how Nintendo could announce their new console any time. The speculation was all over the place, and nobody really knew what Nintendo was aiming for. One thing I give Nintendo excellent credit for, even to this day, is that they run a tight ship. Remember when Bloomberg spilled the beans on the upgraded version of the Nintendo Switch that was coming out last year and would be announced before E3? Still crickets. That's how you do it, Nintendo. Hype does more harm than good for games. It's fine to personally be excited and eager, but the speculation by the affiliated media people is just not good at all. They claim to be insiders, but they're usually completely wrong in a lot of cases. I better stop there. So, on October 20th, 2016, a day after my birthday, Nintendo dropped this video for all of us to digest. And the video is the first look at Nintendo Switch. I'll put that in the description as well. A hybrid console. Now that's how you innovate. You're not sacrificing any performance nor graphic quality by swapping from home console to portable, neither. I felt like Nintendo's wanted to try this concept for a long time, but we finally have the right components to pull it off. I was blown away watching that video. I remember telling myself that Nintendo's won me back. Also, at this time, Sony and Microsoft were trying to sell $400 upgraded versions of their already existing consoles, like the PS Pro, Xbox One X. While Nintendo entered the scene mid-generation with the Switch, and the Switch sold like hotcakes. For months, you could not find one when it released in March of 2017. Also, at the time, I was in my final semester of college. I was just a couple months away from securing a full-time job with my degree that I could one day get a Switch. Not to mention, I had a wedding that summer, married my soulmate. Let's just say 2017 was real busy for me. Naturally, as the holiday season approached, you could suddenly find Nintendo Switches at relative ease. Wonder why. Also, you could pick which one you wanted. You could get the gray controllers or the red and blue ones. Christmas of 2017, my wife and I were talking and wanted to buy a gift that both of us would like, and the Switch was on top of our radar. So after our family get-together, we went to Best Buy in the evening and picked up the gray Nintendo Switch. We got a copy of Mario Kart 8 to go with it as well. That was only the beginning. I remember we spent the next couple of days racing our hearts out on Mario Kart. My wife and I would use one Joy-Con each and just hold it in our hands and race a split screen. Once we got a good deep dive in Mario Kart, we talked about seeing what else they had to offer. I was more interested in Zelda, and she was more interested in Super Mario Odyssey. So what happened? We got both. Zelda was a gift from a family member, and then we just bought Odyssey. When my wife wanted to watch television, I'd play Zelda in handheld mode. That was the first time I really got to see how the Switch played as a handheld console, and I think it did great. Zelda ran just as good as it did docked to the TV. The Switch didn't run any hotter than it would have regularly, and I could have played it for hours until the battery went down. Of those two games, Super Mario Odyssey blew us both away. My wife played the campaign first, and I played it after her. We had fun both times. She asked me if Odyssey was better than Galaxy, but I could not pick a better game. I told her I think they're tied. In fact, maybe before we see a direct sequel to Odyssey, I like to see Nintendo take everything that was great in Odyssey and apply it to the world of Donkey Kong and give him a good adventure with all the elements we love. Don't worry, Nintendo, I won't charge you for this idea as long as you see it through. I wouldn't mind a free copy. Just kidding, maybe. So I made it about 25% of the way through Zelda before some other games released for the Switch. Even with that little progress, it was easily the best Zelda game I've played, as a whole. Like, you can tell, it was just great. But I never got much further than that because I couldn't stand the weapons breaking. The crafting system was confusing. Like, I needed a strategy guide for that game, and they just don't make them really anymore. So, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll play Zelda here on the channel. I mean, if enough of you ask for it, I might do it. As some of the other first-party games released, I'd go on and buy shortly and play them, like Pokemon, Mario Tennis, Mario Party, Super Smash Bros., Animal Crossing, Mario Golf, to name a few. In fact, I plan on playing Mario Golf this afternoon. Well, that was a year ago. Another aspect of the Switch is I like the fact that they started to pick up better third-party support. I would have bought Skyrim yet again if I wasn't as strict on my No More Skyrim Todd rule in order to encourage Bethesda to make Starfield. I had some other games like Civ 6 that ran pretty well. Nintendo also stepped in as a chief cheerleader for the independent game developers such as Stardew Valley, like the games such as Stardew Valley and Hades. These games help buy Nintendo some time to churn out high-quality exclusives, and also gets people to play lesser-known games at good value. Stardew Valley put many, many hours into that. Today, the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox Series X are my main two gaming console. I can go back and forth and get different experiences with each. Now that it's been a few years, I can say Nintendo Switch will go down as one of my favorite consoles I've ever played. The fact that I can game with my wife, and one of these days I can game with my nieces, nephews, and even our own children once it's time for them to, be here. Before I wrap up this section, I wanted to follow up regarding, let's see, it's not really relevant. Let's skip all that. Let's kind of speed this up. We're already 35 minutes in this damn thing. Okay, so this is like my conclusion I wrote at the end. By now, you've noticed some of the Nintendo consoles didn't make my personal experience list. I bet the main one you're wondering about is the Nintendo 64. By the time I was old enough to understand games and enjoy them, the technology was already surpassed. PlayStation 2 was already out in terms of the home console, and then I was playing my Game Boy Color. I didn't really have an interest in the 64, but I do have one in there. I've heard some great games were made for that console. It would be nice to experience them as remasters, or maybe Nintendo can put them on like an emulator and let us do that, you know? But in terms of a lasting legacy, it feels like I've been on a journey with Nintendo. I got to experience their adventure into handheld and portable markets, and then I got to experience the ambitious consoles like the Gamecube, the Wii, and the Switch. But, let's see here. I do feel like Nintendo is on their own in terms of a niche. As the Switch ages, it just further cements Nintendo as a gaming company that can appeal to all ages. Then, you can play some games more geared toward the beginners and children, or you could get more serious games like Dark Souls or Skyrim and play those on the go. I'm glad to see that Sony and Microsoft do not view Nintendo as an adversary. In fact, at least it looks like on the surface level, Microsoft has some interest in working as a team with them. It could be argued that Nintendo is the gateway drug, for lack of a better term, for gamers all around. It sure was for me. If it wasn't for Nintendo, I would not have craved the adventures provided by Sony games, nor the experiences given by Microsoft. With everything already being said, for the sake of not making this piece any longer than it needs to be, and it probably was longer than it needed to be, I can safely say that I told my complete history with Nintendo. The best part, I think, is that there are many great years ahead. I like to see what's next. However, I think the Switch has many great years left, especially with the new and improved model of it. Like, let's beef it up a little bit. Let's put it in 4K and, like, get it a little beefier. Like, we don't have to make a new console, right? But that's all I got, guys. That was the end of the story. It's 36 minutes in. Let's end this thing. This is White Mojo Wolf signing out.